off. She's going to be whoops. She is going to be presenting today about ingrown treatment. So we're really excited about that. So thank you for joining. We also have Trini, who's our educator from our Colorado office. She's going to be in on the back end monitoring questions and admitting people as they join and just kind of making sure if you have any problems that she can try to help out on the back end. So with that being said, I'd love everybody to try to find the chat feature. That's how we're going to be submitting questions. Trini will be reading out the questions to Tiffany throughout the presentation. So if you guys have a minute and you can find the chat feature and just put in, we usually like to say, where you're from, where you're calling in from would be great. Or if you want to say something about your Thanksgiving break, that would be awesome. Or something you're looking forward to. Take a minute to do that. Make sure you have that because if you have any questions, that's how we're going to be communicating with everybody. So with that, also, one last thing at the very end, we do have an evaluation that pops up once we end the meeting. So it really is, I think it's 9 questions. It's fast. So if you can just answer that, we really do look at those to help improve our online education and also look for ideas for things that you guys are looking for future ones, because we usually plan months in advance on how on these classes. And then lastly, we are going to be recording this. I do see Aaron's on the phone, and Aaron, I got your email. I just haven't had a chance to respond. We are going to be recording this. It will be up on our YouTube channel. We do send a link after, but we also do have a YouTube channel that has all of our previous recordings of all of our online education. So thank you so much for joining us. And with that, I will pass it over to Tiffany.
Good morning. Good morning. I love that everyone's in the chat and telling us all of the things. We've got Santa Clara, California. What's up? San Jose. Yay, California. Obviously, that's where I am. It's freezing here right now, guys, just saying. So if I start to it's cold in my office right now. We've got some Colorado, South San Francisco, some more San Jose's. Love it. Burlingame, Colorado's, love it. Yeah, love everyone that's in here. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, again, after obviously the holiday that we just had. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving and ate all of the food because I sure did. I'm still full, not gonna lie. All right, so let's get into it. Ingrown hair treatments, okay? This is how to prevent, identify, and treat. Now, one of the most irritating things about hair removal that we do is the better we are at it and the more we do it, the more ingrowns we get, right? Right. So this is also a lot based on us not educating our clients. So here we are going to figure out how to tell our clients how to treat their skin in order to prevent the ingrowns, right? So when I'm talking, anyone that's ever heard me talk, I always say that hair removal is a skincare treatment, right? So I want you to have your skincare hat on. Now, Alexander's Aesthetics, we're kind of amazing, right? We're a wholesale distributor. We have all of the supplies that you need. We have your wax supplies, skincare supplies, lash and brow lift. You're going to hear Trini pop in with me with the questions. She does all of the brow and phenomenal lift things. We also have disposables, tools. We have your gloves, all of the other things, your sugaring supplies. We offer obviously online and in-person classes. We are building our on-demand classes as well because it's important to us that you get as much education as possible, because in order for us to be better, we always have to continue to learn. Here's me. So Tiffany Montalbano, I have been 25 years I've actually been doing this now. I have owned my own business for quite some time as well. I went to a local school here in California. When I moved back to California, after I got my license in Massachusetts while I was in college. I have been teaching for Alexander's for close to 13 years now, and it's been a great learning experience. Again, as an esthetician, as a working esthetician, you always want to constantly learn. So the agenda for today, what we're going to go through, I'm going to hope I'm not going to talk too fast. Slow me down if I need to, because that I tend to get real excited and kind of go a little quickly. So if I need to slow down, let me know. But we do have 60 minutes, so I want to also make sure that we respect everybody's time. So the agenda, we're going to go through the different types of ingrown hairs. Not every ingrown is treated the same, right? We think ingrown and we kind of only have one picture in our head, but there's actually a couple of different types. So we're going to go through how to prevent them. And then we're going to go through our different skincare brands and ingrown, I like to call them potions, that we carry at Alexander's. So we have PFB ingrown products. We have Sugar of the Nile, excuse me, and Bion also has specific ingrown products as well. Sorry. Okay, the different types of ingrowns that we have. Now, the first one, I'm hoping you can see my cursor. The first one here, this is that teaser, I call it, right? It's the one that you can get out, right? It's the one you can pop out with your kind of pointed tweezer before we even start our hair removal service, whether it be sugaring, whether it be waxing, it doesn't matter. Now, with this particular one, that kind of red dot, that's not necessarily meaning that there's bacteria involved, but this type tends to just say, maybe that hair got a little dry, maybe got smashed into the skin got a little dry and started to create and kind of suck it back into the skin. This one is not one that we need to necessarily spend mass amounts of time in the treatment room for. Brazilians are one of our bigger services, I'm sure, and that tends to be the one that now we've got our ingrown treatments and our facials, right, for the Brazilian areas. This isn't one that we spend mass amounts of time on, right, but one that we're going to obviously kind of point out and discuss with our client. The next one here is the one that we always think of, right? This is what we picture in our heads when we think of an ingrown. This particular one is going to have bacteria involved in that follicle as well, right? So because there's the bacteria that's involved, this is the one that we want to go after with some salicylic acid, right? Most ingrown treatments have a lot of salicylic, which we do love because what do we know about sal? We know that sal is a oil-based chemical, right? And it's going to clean out the follicle lining and kill bacteria of our skin. Wonderful. Now, so this particular one, you definitely need to go after with some of that salicylic so that we can kill the bacteria off, because otherwise what we end up with is a little bit more of a mess if we try to, which we should not, because papules we do not extract, but of course we still need to get that hair out. So we need to treat the surface of that skin like it's a little bit of an acne breakout, right? We need to exfoliate the surface. We need to kill the bacteria. That way we can work the hair out of the skin, okay? The next one here, this is that one that skin's gonna be a little bit more dehydrated. The hair didn't actually get to kind of complete its growth cycle to actually pop all the way out of the skin to then become trapped. This one's closer to becoming into that circular papule problem, okay? This is also one that can slightly be treated much easier. We don't necessarily need to treat that one with salicylic. We can do more with our lactics or glycolics, things like that, okay? So the next one, all right, my friends, I hear someone is not muted. So I'm going to mute you guys because I can hear you. Love you. And I do want to hear you. But okay. Now, the next one this is my favorite one.
Tiffany, I think you might be muted.
Do you guys like that I just had a whole bunch of hand gestures for you? Okay. I'm an esthetician, right? Terrible at computer things. Okay, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna do my hand gestures again for you. All right. Thank you, Trini, for telling me. So this last one here, the one that I was talking about, this is the one that this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one because this one taunts you. It's saying, I'm here. I'm at the surface. Oh, but I'm not at the surface, right? This is the one that's staring at you, literally right out. It's growing underneath, right? These are the ones you see and you're like, how am I getting that out? Because you have to find where the follicle opening is. You kind of have to dig it out, which we don't want to dig into our client's skin, right? That's just rude. And it's not necessarily the most challenging, but can be, because this is the one that we don't necessarily want to go after with a whole bunch of salicylic. Because if we do, then we're actually drying the skin out more. This particular one happens when the skin's really dehydrated. Dehydration, we know, is one of the root evil causes in the skin for kind of anything, but anytime that there's dehydration in the skin, the hair, after we've removed it over and over and over again, the hair isn't strong enough to break through the surface of the skin. Now, this is the ingrown that I get all the time because I've been removing my hair for 25 years and I already have thin, fine hair, which is why I have really short hair because there's not much of it. So it looks like I got more. But the hair isn't going to break through. I'm also a very dry, dehydrated person. I can do all the right things, but there's still going to be those ingrowns. These are the ones that as time goes on, you're going to really have to make sure that your clients pay attention to their home care, because otherwise you're going to have to fight this battle consistently, right? And that's not what we want to do. Also, these are kind of the most fun to get out, not gonna lie, because they tend to be really long. And it brings us joy, right? That's why we do this job. We like to get things out of the skin. It always brings us some joy. So, okay, those are our different types of ingrowns. All right. Now, again, could be bacteria based. It could be from dehydration. A lot of this is, again, we need to educate our clients to make sure they're doing their home care. I say this all the time. We don't create and do a beautiful facial on someone's skin and be like, absolutely, please go home and wash your face with that bar of soap that has the slime on the bottom, and it's going to look the same. We all know it's not, right? We're going to talk to them about how to take care of their skin at home. These ingrowns and the different types is going to be based on, and their home care is going to be based on which ingrown they have and what you have for retail. How do we help prevent these ingrowns? Obviously, this is, again, skincare challenge, so we can obviously help prevent this. One of the ways we can help prevent this is proper preparation of the skin prior to the service. Now, I say proper preparation, and that can mean a multitude of different things based on your personal technique. Now, I don't like to say things are wrong, because if things work for people and their skin looks great and we're having good results, then we're not doing anything necessarily wrong, right? That's what's working for you. That's what's working for your clients. So do it that way. For us at Alexander's, for the skin The wax brands that we use, we tend to use an oil prior to our service. Now, the reason why that oil has become a little bit more mainstream over these years, because I was taught how to prep the skin with rubbing alcohol and baby powder, right? And I've seen a difference when I'm actually, again, have my skincare hat on and I analyze the skin and see what's going on. Our preparation with oil helps to create that barrier between the skin and the wax. I've also found this can be making this sometimes I feel like I make things up, but this can be making things up. I also found, especially again, because I'm a dry skin, dry hair, when that little bit of oil softens that hair up, it tends to be able to be gripped and not break. Because that can be a problem, right? If we're not pulling the hair out properly, or if it's not prepped properly, if the hair is really dry and brittle, it can break instead of actually pull out. And when that happens, right, that also can create those ingrowns. So we want to prevent it on our end by making sure that the skin is ready and healthy in order to have the hair removed by wax or by sugar, right? And by sugar, the skin has to be super, super dry in order for the paste to remove it, right? And so again, there's nothing wrong with needing to use a powder to create that situation for the sugar to work. But then on the flip side, again, you can also use an oil if we are going to be waxing, okay? Obviously, proper hair removal technique. Now, this becomes obviously pulling parallel. We all know this, right? This is what we're taught. This is what we know. We also are very concerned about how quickly we are moving, which I agree. Nobody needs a 45 or hour, hour and a half Brazilian. Nobody wants to do a full leg in like a 2-hour time span, right? We need to move quickly and efficiently, but we also have to make sure that when we're doing that we are pulling perfectly parallel. So a lot of times pulling those really big long strips, your hand ends up, no matter what, it's going to pull up and away instead of staying perfectly parallel to the skin. So just be sure that when you're doing the removal, that we're staying perfectly parallel, right? That's also with sugaring. Even though we're going in the direction of the hair growth, we still want to make sure that we're pulling parallel, okay? Home care, home care, home care, home care. Exfoliation. We love exfoliation. I love exfoliation. Everybody loves it, right? Now we've over exfoliated on the planet. So now we're seeing more people with ingrowns. We're seeing more over exfoliated skins, which we all know it creates a challenge with the protective barrier because that's kind of no longer there because we've over exfoliated. So exfoliation is key to make sure that the dead skin is off of the surface. But the next thing is hydration. You have to hydrate skin. Now, we say hydration. Now, it can be water hydration, it can be oil hydration, it can be both. Whatever brings you joy, do that. Whatever is going to work for your client, do that. You have to make sure that they've added this hydration into the skin as well. Now, most people look at me after a Brazilian and I say we need to hydrate the skin, and they're like, you want me to put lotion where? Right. Now, it's still skin, right? The top of the pelvic bone is pretty much where we see most of the ingrowns. Sometimes we will see them on the sides of the bikini line where that nice little crease when we sit down, or that little bikini crease is. We see it there as well. A little bit of lotion. Now, of course, I am Italian, and as we've all figured out, I use my hands for everything. So in my hand gestures, I say, when you're putting the lotion on your legs, you're going to bring that lotion all the way up, and then whatever left residue is over, you can use that on the top of the pelvic bone. That tends to be enough. You don't need to have a whole glob of a quarter size and maneuver it all over the top of the pelvic bone. You do need some though. Now, for some people, they love this idea and they want to just lather themselves up in the oils and the lotions. That's fine too. But for those that have a little bit less of an excitement about it, just make sure that, hey, when you're putting the lotion on your legs, just bring that lotion all the way up, okay? The next thing is our ingrown treatments. Now we love, I mean, we're in skincare. We like product, right? I love product. So we also have our ingrown treatments, right? That can be necessary when they actually have ingrowns. Some people are prone, some people are not. So again, that's going to be based on the actual client that's in with you at the time. Do we want to just start with the basics, or do we need to jump right into the treatment as well for that at-home care? Okay. And there's no wrong answer, again, to me on this one. So again, the type of exfoliation. If you like scrubs, scrubs are great. If you love scrubbing mitts with body washes, wonderful, right? However, you think a dry brush also, honestly, is great. You can use a loofah as a dry brush. You don't necessarily have to buy an extra dry brush. We at Alexander's, you'll see in a minute, we have great exfoliating gloves that I love. I'll use those dry and then use them wet. So you can mix and match your treatments too. Okay. Love Lycon. Lycon is one of our wax brands. They do have an Ingrown Exit Foaming Gel. I love this one. This one it's got tea tree, so it's antibacterial, aloe for soothing, lavender oil, and there's some salicylic in there. There's not a ton necessarily, so we're not going to be really drying the skin out, right? My fear, again, as a dry person, my fear is always drying the skin out. This one isn't going to do that. You can also just use this in those particular areas that get ingrowns. So this is great for that one person who really isn't going to do much else. And we have those clients, right? Little bit of Ingrown Exit foaming gel, scrub it on that area, let it be, right? And then eventually, hopefully you can get them to hydrate words. This is a great retail option. It's a gel. Again, a little bit goes a long way. It's $13.20. So pro tip, pair this with the exfoliating gloves, right? So you can run a special. So I always say, let's do this in the winter time. We tend to think you can run the special, obviously, in the summertime, but we want people, if they want to learn, if they want to start hair removal by sugar or wax, we actually want them to start now. We want them to start in the winter, right? We want them to be ready for the summer. We want their skin to be ready. We want to make sure that they don't have to grow their hair for weeks at a time, right? It's already started to thin out and work its way through the system. So you can create, we're about to hit December, you can do something in January instead. Also, because sometimes January is slow, pair these together. Buy an Ingrown Exit with any hair removal service and get your exfoliating gloves for free. Something like that. Okay. The Ingrown Exit solution, I love this one too. So it's got some salicylic in it, gonna exfoliate, kill bacteria. The sodium lactate, it helps to draw moisture. So this one I love because, again, not everybody needs aggressive exfoliation and drying out of the skin. That's not what the Ingrown is stating. This one also has lactic. Now, excuse me, I love lactic, right? Some of us have our chemical peel that we love. Lactic is mine because it's hydrating, right? It's hydrating and exfoliating, and it brings that moisture back to the skin, right? And it helps to smooth the skin out, okay? We also, it can help reduce, not lactic, the allantoin can help reduce irritation. If there's irritation, which there can be with ingrowns, this can also help reduce it. Words, guys, words, it's Monday. Okay. Your retail options, it's nice because you have a couple of different ones. So you can have a
Before you move on,
yes,
you
yes.
do have a question real quick.
What's the question?
It said, would you, we might need a little bit more clarification, Jasmine, but it says, would you do the ingrown after hydration? I'm
assuming you mean ingrown treatment. If that's what you mean, you would do the ingrown treatment prior to your hydration. Because we still want to think of these, most of your ingrown treatments are some type of serum. So you still want to go by weight, right? So again, if you think of the face, when we're using our vitamin C serum, we do vitamin C serum before our moisturizer because our serum is lighter in weight. And then we add our moisture after because it's heavier. Is that, I'm hoping that's what you mean. So you want to do your exfoliation in the shower or whatnot. If you do that, then you want to use your ingrown treatment. Then you want to do your hydration. I probably should have put those in order, so I apologize for that. That's the ingrown treatment, again, is a little bit up in the air, so you don't always need that either, but that's a good question. The spray, so 4.2 ounce spray is $17.60. Sometimes I would honestly start people at the 1 ounce just because a little bit goes a really long way. So they end up with the 4 ounce a lot longer. And you'll be able to sell a little bit more retail because they'll need to up how often they're buying the spray, right? They also have it as a cream if some people don't want to don't want to use a spray, right? It also comes in pads. So that's a nice way to travel. If you have a client that travels a lot, the pads are a great option. Same all the things are the same. The purpose is the same. It just comes in different forms. Okay. So again, that's going to be based on your clients, what they like to do, what they don't like to do. The spray is great for your male clients because they can actually get it themselves on their back and on their chest. It's not as difficult to do. The cream could be easier for the person who likes something on their legs. The spray also might be a little better for the underarms, or the pads might be nicer for the underarms, and the pads might be nicer for those with the bikini Brazilian area. But again, that's going to be a personal preference, but you have options, which is really nice. Etal wax. So Etal wax is another one of our waxing manufacturers. This is the Ingrown concentrate. Now, mind you, the Ingrown serums, potions, all of the things, they're slightly similar, but slightly different. So this is where you're going to have to figure out what works best for you. I never really like to say one works better than another because I don't think that one thing works good for every. We have different cleansers for a reason. We have different moisturizers for a reason. That is also why we have different Ingrown potions. Okay. So the Ingrown treatment here by Etal Wax, it has some citric acid. That's going to help exfoliate and disinfect the skin, right? So this is good if you have more of that papule type of ingrown. It's got lactic, my fave, because that's going to help exfoliate, but also hydrate and soften the skin. And it does have that salicylic to also exfoliate and help kill bacteria, aloe to obviously help soothe. Anytime that there is any kind of inflammation in the skin, we need to also soothe that as well, right? We need to help that inflammation in order for the skin to do everything else that it needs to do, okay? You have two retail options here. You have a paste, it's kind of like a cream, or you have a spray. So again, you can do the cream or the paste for those that prefer that for like underarms or bikini Brazilian. Sprays also maybe for underarms, legs, larger body parts. Some people don't want to have to spend mass amounts of time rubbing a whole bunch of things all over their body. So a lot of times I think the spray might be easier for those people. PFB. So PFB has some pretty rad and different types of formulas. And these are also going to be based on some of the other challenges we end up with when we're talking about ingrown hairs. So some of those things are going to be your pigmentation, because again, I'm one of those people that anytime there's trauma to my skin, it automatically pigments. So that's my constant battle. So for those clients that have that constant battle as well, put your skincare hat on and think, how do we deal with pigmentation also, right? Because now you're dealing with bacteria and pigmentation, or dehydration and pigmentation. So use your skincare hat and think about the route that you want to go with all of that home care, right? Because that's going to make the big difference. So with the PFB, this is their original PFB Vanish. It's got salicylic, it's got glycolic, it's got lactic, and it's got camphor. We love camphor. We don't actually see it as often, I don't think, anymore. But that helps to calm the irritation. Again, what are we dealing with? This is for the person who gets those extremely inflamed, massive type of papule ingrowns. Some of them can be pretty painful. Years ago, I had a client, she was sent to me because every single solitary follicle in her Brazilian area was ingrown. All of them. And she had the most beautiful head of hair I've ever seen in my entire life. I have hair envy in the world, so everybody has beautiful hair but me. It was gorgeous. It was so curly and it was fabulous. That was the same type of hair she had in her pelvic area. So it was so curly. There was no straight arrow that was coming through the skin ever. Hence, it was nothing but ingrowns. And even though she had been waxing for a while, it wasn't making a dent because she also had really thick, coarse hair. So we did what we normally do as estheticians, right? We did some exfoliation peels. She was doing the PFB Vanish very consistently. And because her skin was oily, it worked really nice because it really helped to smooth the skin out. It helped to kill the bacteria so that we can actually get the hair out. I saw her every week for a solid 6 weeks. And then I said, after that, when we got her skin under control, I said, I love you so much. I think you should get laser because this is not going to be for you. But she likes the PFB and she keeps using that. Now, we can use this in our back bar. So that's a 16-ounce size. It's $34. Your retail options, there's a 4-ounce roll-on and there's a 2-ounce roll-on. Now, either one is fine. You can do, again, we're getting into the holiday season where people travel. The 2-ounce is a nice travel one. So people don't have to stop using their treatment. Because the first thing that goes, because I don't know about you, but trying to fit all of my skincare in this tiny little sandwich bag size to get through security is not a thing. So the 2-ounce roll-on is a nice travel size. So you can, if you don't have the 2-ounce now, maybe bring it on as a special for the holidays. We have any questions? Let's see, we've got some.
None yet in the chat box.
Okay.
This is a good time
cool.
if you guys have any about anything so far to just put them in there and we'll start answering those.
Again, don't forget that we're going to talk about pigment now. So fun. Right? What's the vein of our existence is trying to deal with pigment in our client's skin, right? It's mine, at least. Maybe not yours. It's totally mine. So PFB, so smart. They created the Chroma Bright formula. So it's the original formula plus their brightening. Okay. So it's the PFB with their Chroma Bright, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Okay. So that's going to help make our melanocytes kind of hang out and stay down, right? Not because anytime there's trauma to the skin, again, your melanin is like, oh, protection. Oh, we're going to sit at the surface. And now we're going to stay here. And we're going to just protect the inflammation that's under there. And now you're going to have a big brown mark instead. Haha, right? So that's one of those that like taunts you. They annoy me. I know, right? So the Chroma Bright is beautiful. Now, also, side note, if they just have pigmentation in the skin, if they get pigmentation under their arms, let's say you don't even wax their arms, but people sometimes will just get some pigmentation just because they're shaving or whatever the case may be, they can use the Chroma Bright just to help with their pigmentation. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to have ingrowns, which again, that's an extra treatment. So this is good for those people who get those terrible ingrowns. And no matter what you've tried so far, although the ingrown part we've handled, but now we have the pigmentation problem, the Chroma Bright is going to help with that. Also, with the Chroma Bright, this is a treatment, right? So when we say treatment, we mean this is something that you have to use consistently. I mean, like everything else we already know. But when we're talking about pigment, which you will, you have to remind your client that they have to go after it consistently. It needs to be gone after on a daily basis, right? Twice a day, once a day, again, whatever brings the best results for that client, because we want to make sure that we kind of suppress that pigmentation. We need it to relax. We need it to go back to sleep under the skin, right? So they need to use the Chroma Bright very consistently. Now with that also means they'll probably have some peeling in the very beginning, okay? And then they can use it as maintenance. But in the first week or two, depending on how often they're using it, once or twice a day, they're going to see that their skin is turning over, those cells are turning over, and there's going to be some flaking. So just make sure they're prepared for that. But again, let's think about it. When we're treating the surface, when we're treating the face, and we're treating pigmentation, and we're doing any kind of chemical peel, things like that, we shed, right? It's the same concept. So it doesn't matter what body part it is, that body part is going to shed. So just make sure they're very aware of that. So again, this is one of those things that's super great to get them on right now in the winter time, where they're generally clothed fully because it's cold. It's even cold here in California. It's 42 this morning when I got up, which is cold here for us. Just saying, you in Colorado, people, it's cold here. So we want them to be able to get through that part now. So you have one retail option for this, and that's the 4 ounce. And it's mainly, they're going to use it more often, and they're going to use more of it because, again, we need to kind of constantly be using it in order to get that cell turnover. Now, there's the Ultra. Oh. So it's the Chroma Bright, it's PFB Original Plus. This one also is going to help brighten and protect too. Okay, so it has the mushroom, brighten, protects from the free radical damage, which again, let's be realistic, everybody needs that. It has white water lily, which purifies and detoxifies the skin, and it has plankton extract, which helps reduce oxidative stress, and it's antibacterial. So there's no wrong answer to which one you want to use, but the PFB Ultra might be a better one for the underarms or something like that. If you're dealing with gentlemen that they're out in the elements, they swim, they ski, they do all of those types of things. This could be really good for them if they get ingrowns and irritation on the surface of the skin. So this is the Chroma Bright, but on steroids. You're still going to use it very consistently, again, in order to see that oxidative stress relax, cells turn over, and overall brightness of the skin. So there's a little bit more nourishment and richness in the Ultra. So this one also comes in 2 different retail options, comes in that 4 ounce or that 2 ounce. So again, you can get people started on that 2 ounce or do a holiday deal on your travel size kit. You can sell them a travel size with some body wash and some moisturizer, and their 2 ounce, right, as their takeaway kit for their traveling, right? Because we all love that. Everybody likes travel kits, right? Your free gifts, give them a cute little bag, something like that. This is a great option for that. Sugar of the Nile. So Sugar of the Nile is our sugaring line, which we love. The In Be Gone, this is a favorite of mine. I say that a lot. but it is. The And Be Gone is one of my favorites. One, because I love the texture. This is a gel texture. And I love that because I wax a lot of gentlemen. I sugar a lot of gentlemen. There's a lot of gentlemen that get their hair removed, okay? And texture and scent, all of those things are very large for that community. And the And Be Gone is kind of the best, one of the best routes to go because it dries immediately. You put it on, they don't feel like they have anything on. It's not as much work, so they appreciate that. The Sugar of the Nile, the And Be Gone, it has witch hazel, it has willow bark, it has aloe, it has tea tree, it has chamomile, and it has menthol, right? So dudes like the menthol, smells manly. Some of them like that, right? The willow bark is going to exfoliate. It's going to help reduce any extra oil. Witch hazel, reduce the inflammation. Because again, if you have an ingrown, there's inflammation involved because there's trauma to the skin. We also need to soothe the skin as well. So this, it also works wonderfully if you get razor burn, right? If your gentlemen get razor burn, or if your female clients that don't have everything removed by sugar or wax, if they get any kind of razor burn, this is beautiful for it. And again, because it's a gel, it feels really nice, especially on the underarms. It feels really nice going on the skin. Also beautiful for those wonderful people that get acne on their rear end, right? They're trying to exfoliate. You can't see what's going on back there, right? We can just feel for the most part. If people tend to get breakouts or clogged pores on their rears, the And Be Gone is a beautiful product for that as well, because again, that is going to help with the exfoliation, kill bacteria, and smooth the skin out. So this comes as a 4-ounce bottle, and you can retail it for $14. Okay, so you don't need to carry all of the things. You want to focus on who your general clientele is and pick the products that work for them. Bion, love Bion. So Bion is a skincare line. So again, skincare hat. Bion is a beautiful skincare line. So they've also created some really great post hair removal products. The post waxing lotion is a beautiful one because this one has that lactic, it has green tea, and it has more lactic than salicylic. So it is going to be a little more hydrating than exfoliate and kill bacteria portion. And it also has niacinamide. Who doesn't love niacinamide? I love niacinamide, right? So this is going to help as a whole soften the skin. It's going to kill any of the bacteria that could be there. And it's going to help to smooth everything out. So this is really nice for the person that you can use it on their entire body if you really want to, right? On the arms, on the legs if you need to. That person just needs that extra exfoliation and that a little bit of that extra hydration with the lactic. You're going to see a nice difference. It also is beautiful on face, but it is meant for post wax. You have your retail options, which is a 1.7 ounce, or the gel, which is a 4 ounce. So they're both gel, sorry. The back bar also is the 4 ounce, I'm so sorry. That you have the option of using, but it's a nice, you're not going to use a ton. One pump goes a really long way. Again, it's going to soak right into the skin. So your client isn't going to have to do a lot of work to maneuver that into the skin either. So you're going to, again, see kind of all of those great promotion in overall health of the skin. Exfoliating gloves. You can't not love these, not going to lie. So exfoliating gloves, you can use to help obviously get the dead skin off. It's going to help prevent the ingrown. Once I'm going to say, if you have really large hands, they don't necessarily fit your hands, but they will work obviously just fine. Now, pro tip, like I said before, you can use it dry. Now, when people exfoliate, I've also realized that when people exfoliate, they just kind of scrub. They're not necessarily really consciously thinking about what they're doing. So there's just some of this up and down, right? And so you're just kind of creating some friction. So what I've done is when I sell the exfoliating gloves, or again, you can pair it with a body wash and get the gloves for free. The gloves are $2.50 cost for you, so you can sell them for $5. What I also like to do is every time they need to buy a new body wash, they need to buy some new exfoliating gloves. It's time to replace those because, again, you need to get people to turn those over. Otherwise, they'll keep them forever, and we don't want that either. You can wash these. I've done it. You put them in a lingerie bag and wash them with your delicates. Clean them. With the exfoliation process, you want people to actually do a gentle, more circular motion because then they actually hit all of their skin because they're really thinking about actually exfoliating and getting every inch. Otherwise, again, it's just some friction and they're not really getting into all of the areas that need to truly be exfoliated. I also do like dry exfoliation. So I do like to use these dry sometimes as well. You know, when the skin's so dehydrated and you can see that it just is flaking off. And when you have that skin walk into your office and they're asking you to remove the hair, you have to remove all of the layers of dead skin before you can even kind of get to the hair. So sugaring is beautiful but you're going to use more paste because you have to get that first layer of dead skin off before, again, you can get to the hair, and then you have to get new paste consistently. And with waxing, you're going to use a ton of wax because, again, you got to get that first layer of dead skin off. So what you can do is you can explain what the gloves are to your client, pre-sell them to them before the service, and do an easy dry exfoliation to get all of that dead skin off first, so that when you do your hair removal service, the hair can actually come out and they'll see that the service itself is actually more beneficial and you will see longer lasting results, right? Because again, you're going to actually get more of the hair. If all of that hair is stuck under the dead skin before you start your service, you're not going to have a successful service. And then we feel like we haven't done our job. This little trick prior for those really dry, dehydrated people who don't know how to take care of their skin yet because they haven't met you and you haven't told them, this is going to help. One, it's going to help trust, right? It's going to build that trust with that client that they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you fixed my skin. Everything is right in the world. And then you'll have a client for life. But again, you're going to give a better service. So you can use this prior to the treatment and again, get all of that dead skin off. The exfoliating gloves are kind of one of those easy things to handle first. That client that comes in that's never had anything done, that doesn't take care of their skin, the exfoliating gloves tend to be where I go first because it'll start to create again some of that trust. Plus, with the way that you're going to teach them to exfoliate in that circular motion, you're going to get some blood flow in the skin. We know how beautiful the skin looks after we've gotten some blood flow, after we've done even our first cleanse sometimes, just getting those toxins to kind of move through the skin. It's going to be the same thing in the body when they see after they've just done that circular motion with exfoliation that takes maybe a minute and a half, that their skin already looks better. That's my soapbox for the exfoliating gloves. All right, my friends, questions, concerns?
We do have a question. It says for post-treatment, how soon would you recommend applying the stronger serums, PFB, salicylic products, etc.? I notice sometimes I will wait 2 to 4 days, oops, that little thing, post wax to get started to start any of the products. I get nervous that I will irritate the skin, or would you say we can start applying immediately after wax?
there is not a wrong fear of irritating the skin, because what have we done right after we wax? We've created trauma to the skin. There's inflammation response. The skin can be warm. It can be slightly irritated. This is going to be based on that person's skin. So there's no wrong answer here. If you have the client who is very prone to ingrowns, who kind of constantly gets more of those stronger, those bigger papules, you can immediately use the stronger serums after. If you have that client, this again is going to be based on the type of serum that you use. If you have the client that's really always really, really dry, it's actually okay to use one that has more of that lactic in there right after the treatment. Again, let's think about this. Think about when we have someone for a facial, we do our exfoliation, we do our extractions, and sometimes we do kind of a detoxifying or maybe another mask that has some more chemical in there, right? To brighten the skin, something like that, right? Perfect example. I went to one of our coworkers at Alexander. She gave me a beautiful facial, and we did dermaplaning with a lactic acid. So we dermaplaned first, and then she did the lactic. So depending on the skin and what the skin's telling you will depend on which serum and when. So the short answer was yes, you absolutely can do something right after the treatment, but that is going to depend on whether or not you see that there's a lot of ingrowns, if they get more of the papula ingrowns, or if they get more of that dehydrated under the skin taunting you ingrown that's just growing parallel to the skin. Hopefully that answered
The
your
other
question.
question that we have is, do you moisturize after using PFB products?
Absolutely. So again, there's no wrong answer to that. I personally think that, especially after a serum. So again, think about it on the face. You don't send your client home who has acne with just a whole bunch of salicylic products, right? And then no moisture, right? No oil, no, they don't. If they're dry, dehydrated, they're still going to need a little oil on the surface of the skin and water, right? It's the same thing. So if PFB, if we're going after those intense ingrowns, but they might be a little more dehydrated, you definitely want to have them add some moisture to the skin after that. So, and I like to separate it out too, in my, how I describe it, and to make it not as overwhelming for clients. If they're a morning person, so when they get out of the shower, they're going to use their PFB first, right? They're going to brush their teeth. They're going to figure out what they're going to wear. And then they're going to put their moisturizer on after they figured out what they're going to wear, right? Because I never get dressed right after, right? I put my moisturizer on, I figure out makeup or whatever, and then I get dressed after, right? So you've separated out how they're going to process the skin. So they're not just trying to throw a whole bunch of products on one after another, because we know if the skin hasn't absorbed it, then it's just going to pill on the skin and it's not actually going to do much. So you want to also make sure that if they're going to use that PFB, they've got some time to let that settle. Then they're going to add their moisture in a minute or two later, if that makes sense.
I think that is all of the questions that we have in the chat box. You guys, if you have anything else that you want to know, this is a great time. There are no stupid questions, so go ahead and put any thoughts in there. If you have, actually, I would love to just see if you guys have any recommendations or things that you've done for Ingrowns as well. This is such a great place to network. And also, Tiffany, if you don't mind, the other thing that I wanted to say with networking is we're all together. There are 25 of us on here. So if you have an Instagram, put it in the chat box so others can follow you. This, our aesthetic community is so important and we can learn so much from each other. Alexander's Aesthetics in Colorado is having a networking event coming up on the 5th of December that Tiffany will actually be at. So if you're located in the Colorado area, please come out to that. It's free. You just have to register online so we know how many snacks and drinks to have there. But this is a really great opportunity for you to learn different waxes. But Michelle St. Pierre had a question. Do you have any tips on selling ingrown products? My clients always ask what they can do, and I tell them, but then they want to buy something on Amazon from a drugstore. That, of course, won't work.
Ah, I know. I tell you. Okay. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. This is then based on your consultation. If you've ever heard me speak, I love consultations. I think they're the most important part of our job. You want to make sure that in that consultation, you make them very aware that the products that we sell, they are professional products, meaning that the active ingredients are at the top of the list, not at the bottom. They are specifically formulated and not just marketed for what they will do, right? They actually do the job they're supposed to. Besides the fact that we have a better guarantee of them getting the results they want if they actually purchase through us, if they actually purchase the products that we sell because we have tried them, we know that they work, we are the professionals, right? You're not going to say it like that, but you're going to get that point across, right? If you want to buy something on Amazon, great, you do you. I'm not going to guarantee that anything that we do in that treatment room is going to work then, right? Again, it's going back to that. If I'm going to give you a facial and you walk out the door and use Cetaphil, you're not going to see, it's not going to harm you, but it's not going to do anything for you either. So you just have to educate your client in these products are tried and true, and these were made for us as the professionals to sell. So when I have those clients that come in that are like, oh, I bought this thing on Amazon, do you think it'll work? Because I get this a lot. I have clients send me all of their skincare and I'm like, what is this hodgepodge, right? And they're like, nothing's working. And I'm like, yeah, nothing's working because none of these things go together, first of all. Second of all, you've done nothing but self-diagnose. None of these things are for you, right? So it's you building that trust with them in the beginning, that, and not guaranteeing that if they're not seeing a benefit, there's only so much you can do, right? If they're not going to trust that the products that you have, which by the way, are not more expensive than drugstores. There's things at the drugstore that are a couple $100s, which is ridiculous, right? I mean, you can go and buy Chanel, which, sorry, not a skincare, beautiful handbags. The woman knew how to do that, but no, not a skincare brand, right? So you can't say that their skin's actually going to look better and be wonderful if they don't use the professional products that go along with it. And again, you start this conversation in that consultation. You came to me because I'm the professional. There is a reason, even after COVID, why so many people were like, I can't wax myself because I tried it. And you're like, yeah, right? It's not that easy. So, and some people you'll never get through, and just know that, but also make them aware that there's only so much that you can do. And if they're going to continue to do and buy whatever they buy on Amazon, that you're not going to guarantee that the skin is going to be any better than it was when they walked in. I get a little aggressive with people when it comes to that, just because, again, like I've been doing this for a little bit of time, but we're the ones that are licensed. We went to school, we learned. You're here now listening to me gab on about all of these things, right? You're trying to network and learn from other people. So you kind of know better, right? Just saying. Sorry, that was my soapbox on that. Michelle had a question for me. Which do you prefer, the spray, cream, or pads? Again, it totally depends on the person. I am a spray person just because for me it's a little bit easier depending on the body part, but I kind of like to just spray stuff and like air myself out personally. But it kind of depends on your clientele. What's going to be easiest for them is really the how to answer that question for you.
The other
Hopefully that makes sense.
question that was in there is, do you recommend any good enzymes? I've been using the raspberry enzyme from SkinScript and it has made a huge difference. Also, applying enzymes immediately post wax is okay, or should we wait a couple of days?
I think right after is fine. Again, it's totally based on your client's skin. We do, more people are now again offering facials for the Brazilian area. I don't necessarily think that it's a bad idea that you can do it all in one treatment. Again, I think it depends on that particular person and what their skin can handle. I love the raspberry, but if the raspberry is not necessarily going to give you a jump start unless you add maybe a little bit of lactic to that raspberry enzyme, that can again create more of that hydration and more exfoliation. If you have that client who has those ingrowns that are just directly under the skin, I think that's totally fine. Sometimes I use the term, you kind of got to drop kick the skin, right? You have to shuck it sometimes in order to get it to do what we want. I am very much in that. I sometimes like to take that really gentle approach, but only with certain people. Some people, again, their skin just, it needs to be kind of drop kicked, and then it can actually, the cell turnover, right? Your collagen gets woken up and everything's like, whoa, we need to get to work here. So maybe throw a little bit of lactic into that raspberry. The coconut is a beautiful enzyme because that one is really hydrating to the skin. Add a little bit of lactic to that one. You're going to find that the skin also sometimes will get a little bit more awake, be a little more woken up after. And because the skin sometimes is a little softer, you can get those ingrowns out. Because the whole point of having a facial after your waxing treatment is to get those ingrowns. If you have the client that has a mass amount of ingrowns, you got to remove the hair that's actually out of the skin, and then you can get to the nitty gritty and get into those ingrowns. So you may have to be a little bit aggressive, but again, that's then their home care that they will address, right? They can hydrate the skin and they can protect the skin once they get home as well. So you're not ripping the skin off like you do our face, right? Like we can shed like crazy, but they can also go home with the Chroma Bright and get that extra turnover. Their skin generally will be fine, again, depending on how sensitive they are, but that's going to be part of your consultation, right? Is what their skin can handle.
The other question, oops, let's see here. I think that was the last question that we had on here. These other are Instagrams. Yes.
Awesome. Love it.
And if you don't follow Alexander's Aesthetics, make sure you do that too. We follow back and love to see your guys' progress.
And don't forget, you can always email us. You can go on social media and ask questions, and we will always get back to you about that, right? Because we're very much the let us help you, right? Because Trini and I might be educators, but we go back and forth as well as to like, hey, I tried this, how'd that work? What do you think about this, right? There's still interaction because we still need feedback too. So we're here to always help you.
Yeah, and then Tiffany, if you want to put your Instagram handle in there, that'd be awesome too. So people can follow you as well. And then put mine in my personal one as well. I think that networking is just so important more than ever now, just because it's so great for us to support each other. A couple events that I want to bring up that we have going on is Buy On. A Buy On webinar is happening for acne on the 18th of December. And then we also have a California Brazilian waxing class on the 11th that Tiffany will be teaching. We have a ton of stuff coming up in January. We will have a skin script class on the 22nd in California and a brow class on the 22nd in Colorado. So keep an eye out for all of these fun and upcoming events. We also have a Apple-free webinar coming up on the 8th. So if you have a client that's struggling really badly with Ingrowns, Apple-free might really be a great option for that client. So definitely tune into that. I think that would
It's
be
an amazing option. It's an amazing option. This is great. I mean, I'm love it. Take it. It'll be wonderful. I'm not lying. Joy. Sorry, I got really excited, Trini.
Yeah, I think Apple-free would be such a good option. I'm someone who struggled with ingrowns for a long time, so I think any option that can help is great. Sorry, this light is making me look like I have a full gray head of hair. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for being with us today. I learned so much. I think that it's just such a great topic to learn about ingrowns because it is a huge reality for so many of our clients. So thank you to Tiffany for educating us, informing us, and helping us improve as estheticians and give the best love and care to our clients possible. I hope that everyone has a happy Monday and had a wonderful holiday. If you got, oh, there's Tiffany's Instagram handle, by the way, it's in the chat box. So make sure to follow her and her spa. But I hope everyone has a great Monday. Thank you so much, Tiffany, and we will chat with you soon. Email us if you have any questions that come up. And we did record this, so you will get a recording and also it'll be on YouTube. Bye, guys. Have a great day. Thanks, Tiffany.